Hey ladies and gents, welcome to my eFootball PES 2021 gameplay mods review for the PC. All of the mods mentioned in this video improve on the base vanilla gameplay that you would see out of the box when you first install PES. One of the most frequently asked questions to me is, which is the best gameplay mod for PES 2021? And it's really not a simple question to answer because it really depends on what you as a player wants from the game. Perhaps you want a more realistic game which is slower paced, has increased shot and pass errors, or maybe you want a more fluid, fun and responsive game. So it really does depend on what you as a player wants, and that's where today's video is going to help you, I hope. As a nice little bonus, some of these gameplay mods offer new animations or unlock animations that were tied up in the game that don't appear all that regularly, which you might not have seen before, whether it's the way a player makes a slide tackle or a player the way he falls to the ground and tumbles. You know, you'll see improved aerial collisions, or even player movements that are normally quite rare appear more frequently. Some of the mods also offer a goalkeeper difficulty selection, which is a nice touch as goalkeepers on Legend can certainly feel too good. As I said, when I'm asked which is the best gameplay mod, it's not a simple question to answer, so I'm going to be running through a precise scoring system, explaining my reasons and then providing the scores at the bottom of the spreadsheet, and hopefully that will make your judgment much easier when it comes to choosing a gameplay mod. I would certainly love to hear if you agree or disagree with some of the feedback that I've recorded. After all, this is just my own thoughts and interpretations. So let's jump straight into it, shall we? Okay, so let's just explain how this scoring sheet works. So across the top we have the different gameplay mods, and then on the left hand side we have the different aspects of PES 2021 that I'll be scoring. So you can see here we have the scoring mechanism. So if it's got a red cross, it's worse than the default or base gameplay experience. If it's got a tick, it's an improvement or an enhancement over the default gameplay experience. And if you see a yellow marker like this, then that means it's equal to, or there's no changes, or not really noticeable changes from the default gameplay. The first one I went for is a tick for shielding against the Holland Soccer Revolution mod. And the reason I say this is because I find that the shielding can be a little bit overpowered in the base game, where you can just literally get a player stuck to your back, and then you can use that close control that your player will take on the ball, and it is a little bit overpowering and allows you to beat one or two players relatively easily. They reduce the amount of time that you can use that close control for, and in my opinion that works quite well in the Holland Soccer Revolution mod. Just adds that little bit of extra realism in my opinion. Whereas the Gentleman Club mod, actually the close control is almost eradicated. It's still there, but I find that it's almost gone completely, and to be honest, you still need to have that close control because it's a nice little feature to have when you are dribbling with someone like Messi, for example. First touch control, so Holland's all-in-one mod. With this mod, I find it very, very fluid and fun to play, and one of the reasons for that is because the first touch control is a little bit snappier, a little bit quicker maybe, so your players do feel like they are actual professional football players and can actually control the ball. So when it came to passing, we have the Gentleman's Club mod and the Holland's all-in-one getting an enhancement over the base game. And the reason for this is two different reasons really. The Gentleman's Club mod, they added weightier passes, so this allows enhanced tiki-taka with the Fuma fully in mind. Admittedly, that doesn't play off very well if you are a PA1 user or PA2 or PA3 user. So this is predominantly for the Fuma crowd. So I personally really like that. There are some people in the forums that dislike it. It's down to your personal preference, but I really enjoyed them adding that extra weight to the passes on Fuma. Whereas the Holland's all-in-one, I find the passing very, very nice, very crisp, and it just made for a fun, fluid gameplay. So the next two are pass error and whether that's been increased. So do your players misplace passes more frequently? All of them apart from the Holland's all-in-one mod. For me personally, this adds an extra layer of realism, which is very, very nice if that's what you're after. So, you know, you can't really go wrong. The one I would say it's most predominantly affected in is the Gentleman's Club mod, especially for the AI. And because you're on Fuma, it means the game's far more forgiving and it gives you a chance to get that ball back. I did find the crossing improved on Fuma as well. A little bit more whip, a little bit more control over the crosses. I don't know if that has anything to do with them adding extra weight to the passes. I really don't know, but it just feels really, really nice on the crossing. So this next one is all about shooting power, whether it's been increased, and it has for the ones that have been ticked. You'll find that shots from outside the box are far more zippy, especially if you're on basic shooting. I find that if you're on Fuma, most of the shots are around the same speed and they are much faster than the typical basic shooting, in my opinion. That's why you tend to find that a lot of players like myself will use Fuma controls. Will hold down the left trigger to activate the Fuma shots, and you'll get a little bit more power into your shots by doing that. In terms of the shot error from not only the player but the AI as well, all of these mods enhance that by increasing the shot error and shot error from the AI. So it means your shots are going to miss the target more frequently, and that just adds an extra layer of realism across the board for all of these mods. So I've said there's improved finesse shots for the Holland Soccer Revolution mod, and what I'm talking about there is the sort of longer range finesse shots. I'm talking 20-25 yards. Just seems to be a bit more whip pace about them. It could be attributed to the shooting power increase because, like I said here, Soccer Revolution more so than Holland's all-in-one and the Gentleman's Club mod in terms of that shot power. Now I'm not sure about this next one. It just feels different for the chip shots. So I said the Gentleman Club mod, what you find is, because I think they've altered the ball physics to make it a little bit heavier and the pass is slower, that it's actually had an impact on the chip shots as well. And I think I kind of prefer it. I don't know if it, just because it makes it a little bit more tricky, a little bit more harder. Maybe you can get more trajectory to get up and over the goalkeeper from a longer distance. I don't know. There's something just about it that I quite like over the other mods. When it comes to overall player movement and how well your players respond to your input, nothing beats Holland's all-in-one mod. And it really, like I said, this mod all seems to focus on that fun and fluid gameplay, and it's why it's one of my favorites. And definitely the player movement in general feels really, really good. In terms of skills responsiveness, I find that all the mods had an improvement there, some varying more than others. I would say the most responsive was probably Holland's all-in-one mod. Next one is skills frequency for the AI, so how often they perform skills. And I found that much increased on Holland's Soccer Revolution mod. If you've been watching my Newcastle Master League, you would have noticed Alonso do a double touch in the first game I played, and that was a fairly frequent, common thing that I would see in the future games going forward. A lot of players performing a lot of skills in different areas of the pitch that you wouldn't normally see. When it came to the AI reading your skills, so knowing what you're going to do before you've even fully inputted the actual command, and they'd often tackle you in the base game, I found that was lessened in all of the mods. Some more so than others. I found that probably Holland's all-in-one mod was once again the best at these mods, and I would say Holland's Soccer Revolution mod is probably very, very close second. So now let's just take a look at the defensive side of things. So here we've got player selection issue frequency, and these are low across the board, so that's a good thing. But for the Soccer Revolution mod, Holland's Soccer Revolution mod, I found the player selection issue very high in terms of severity. So what I mean by that is I had two instances where the cursor flicked between two players at least 5 times, I would say, in the space of a single second. So it was like bang, 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 between two players. And I thought that's really bad. And that happened twice so far already. But for the improved physicality, I would definitely say Holland Soccer Revolution mod. If you saw the start of this video where Blind was jostling for the ball, that was Soccer Revolution. You find the stronger players do muscle your players off the ball, but it's a real good battle. In terms of goalkeeper realism, I would always recommend setting it to the weaker goalkeepers. So just make sure you get the right DT file and put that into your folder. Having the weakest goalkeepers, in my opinion, is the way to go. You get a lot of different outcomes from shots that would perhaps normally be saved unrealistically, and I found all 3 stellar in bringing out new goalkeeper animations with these mods. For me, the goalkeeper off his line awareness in terms of AI, so what this means is when the AI has possession of the ball and he's through one-on-one with the goalkeeper, if you pull your goalkeeper off the line, I noticed with Holland's, they will chip you. They seem to know that he's coming off his line, whereas a lot of times in the base game, I can't even recollect how many times I've pressed triangle just to draw my goalkeeper off his line and tackle the guy 25, 30 yards out my box with my goalkeeper. Goalkeeper difficulty selection, so all of these mods allow you to choose a difficulty. Like I said earlier, you can just set it, I think like goalkeeper 3 is usually the weakest, and then goalkeeper 0 is the strongest. So take that into consideration, but just make sure you just read the text files before you do so you have got the right goalkeeper, because they may vary from mod to mod. Right stick player selection, has it been improved? Yes, it has compared to the base game. I would say all of these mods make player selection much quicker and much smoother. Good look at other aspects of PES 2021. In terms of the player positioning, off the ball movement, Gentleman Club mod really stood out here. It was so good. The way they get forward and back much quicker. But the only problem was that led to the pathing, which I'll cover off in a second. In fact, I'll cover it now because it does link in with this one quite nicely. So what I found was there was a few times where I've had the ball and I'm going towards their goal, and their player for some reason has broken off away from my player. Instead of trying to close my player down, he's literally gone on an attacking run. I'm like, where's he going? But it must be part of the program of this, the player positioning off the ball movement. So, to be honest, this definitely outweighs this negative, in my opinion. If all of these other mods could have this, the off the ball movement and player position that's in the Gentleman Club mod, that's a very, very big plus. That really does add to the liveliness of the game. It flows totally different. In terms of the player and reaction time, so I would say it's definitely improved in the all-in-one mod. If you've seen my review, you'll see how frequently players try to stick their foot out and the quickness that they close you down. They seem to have this much increased awareness of where the ball is. So the all-in-one mod was absolutely sublime here and really does make a difference to the game. But in terms of the Gentleman Club mod, sadly that falls down a bit here. When two players collide, and it's going to sort of fall into this category here, these sort of come in hand here. When two players collide in Gentleman's Club mod, there's this like freeze and pause, and there's a lot of times where they don't really know where the ball is. And again, that could be due to this factor here. This tweak that they've made here to make or improve the player positioning off the ball movement has had a detrimental impact to these two here, the player reaction time and the pathing. In terms of collisions, it was really bad in the Gentleman's Club mod. Like I said, the two players collide and the players freeze even for like a split second. Everyone's like looking around and then they pick up the ball, and it's really disjointed. And I had the same problem with the eSIM Next Gen as well. But for the all-in-one and Soccer Revolution, I found that those were much improved. You get really, really good collisions. However, there was one aspect, and if you go back and watch the start of this video, you'll see the Soccer Revolution mod where a cross comes in from blind and the striker goes up to head it, and there's a little bit of clipping, I guess, between the two players. But still, there's another aspect where you see Traore go up for a header, loops over my goalkeeper, but if you watch the player who's challenging, he falls to the floor, and it just looks really natural. The way Traore just bashes him out of the way, because he's an absolute monster, isn't he? So yeah, I really like that. With the new animations, so 3 of these mods unlock new animations you won't perhaps see in the game, whether that's slide tackles, it could be new bits of skills, and just the way players fall to the ground from aerial challenges. So you may see some new animations in these 3 mods, but not in the eSIM Next Gen. That's exactly the same as the sort of default animations that you would normally see. In terms of the new animation frequency, I would say they're very high in both of Holland's mods, the all-in-one and Soccer Revolution, and medium chance of seeing new animation in the Gentleman's Club mod. Improved ball physics in all of these. Gentleman Club mod I really like I said, with that much weightier ball, with the passing and the shooting and the chip shots. Really, that probably really stands out for me here. Improved player ID, I would say Holland's Soccer Revolution is probably the best in terms of this. It really does, the player ID stands out, or seems to stand out a lot more. The player weightiness, so I feel like Holland's all-in-one mod weren't so weighty, but they weren't floaty at the same time. It just had a real nice balance, and it made the game flow really, really well. The foul frequency, I found this to be high on Gentleman Club mod and Soccer Revolution. I really like that because it gives you a realistic number of fouls. I had, how many penalties have I had already in Soccer Revolution? 3 or 4 penalties. And I would say the ref accuracy is much improved in Holland's as well. I feel like the fouls are being called just right. Not perfect by any stretch of imagination. There's still sometimes where your player goes down and you're thinking, cool, that looks like a foul. Sometimes you go to the replay and you're like, actually, yeah, I can sort of see why it wasn't called. And the scripting being removed from the game. So the Holland's and the Gentleman Club mod all do an excellent job of removing the script. But I would say Holland's are probably the best at that. I really cannot feel any scripting, especially in the Soccer Revolution mod. So all of these mods were tested on Superstar and Legend difficulties. So I haven't tested it on Top Player, Pro, or anything less than. My recommendation would be Holland's All-in-One. That's personally for me because I prefer, that fun, fluid gameplay. If you're after a more realistic game, then I'd probably recommend the Holland's Soccer Revolution mod. And if you're after Fuma, if you are into Fuma or want to get started into Fuma, then Gentleman Club mod is a very, very nice mod. The fact that you've got that high pass error from the AI is going to allow you to have more chances to build your attacks, especially if you're starting out on Fuma, because they will give the ball to you as much as you'll give it back to them, even on the higher difficulty levels, which is very, very nice. And then I've got a scoring system down here. Holland's All-in-One mod is definitely the best for me. It's just fun, it's fluid, it's fast. Not fast and realistic, it just feels so good. And if you go watch the reviews of all of these mods, which I'll leave in the description of this video, then you can check that out and you can see perhaps where I'm coming from. This hopefully will help you identify with PES. What type of game do you want it to be? Do you want it to be more realistic, more fun, more fluid? Are you a Fuma player? Perhaps you just want just a few tweaks just to, you like the vanilla gameplay, but you just want a couple of tweaks. Therefore, I'd recommend the eSIM Next Gen mod. If you want the fun, fluid gameplay, go for Holland's All-in-One. If you want a more realistic experience, then Holland's Soccer Revolution. And if you're after that Fuma experience, then Gentleman's Club. Anyway, that's all from me, ladies and gents. Thank you so much for joining me. Sorry I waffled on a little bit too much there, but hopefully that's going to give you a good idea of what to expect. And let me know your thoughts and feedback in the comments down below. Thanks for joining me, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.